What country was forced to withdraw from the British Commonwealth in 1961 and was reinstated in 1994? South Africa. South Africa withdrew from the Commonwealth in 1961 when it became a republic, primarily due to the widespread opposition from other member states to its apartheid policies. Following the end of apartheid and the establishment of a democratic government, South Africa was officially readmitted to the Commonwealth in 1994. Where was the industrial accident on the 2nd to the 3rd of December 1984 that caused the deaths of 3,000 to 16,000 people, for which 7 ex-employees were convicted in June 2010 and sentenced to 2 years imprisonment and a fine of about $2,000 each? Bhopal, India. The Bhopal gas tragedy occurred on the night of December 2–3, 1984, at the Union Carbide India Limited, UCIL, pesticide plant in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. It is considered one of the world's worst industrial disasters, involving the release of methyl isocyanate, MIC, gas, leading to thousands of immediate deaths and long-term health issues. What is the colloquial name for people from Wiltshire, a county of southwest England, that arose from a folk tale? Moonrakers. Moonrakers is the colloquial term for people from Wiltshire, England, originating from a local folk tale. The tale describes how Wiltshire smugglers, pretending to rake the moon's reflection from a pond, outsmarted excisemen and hid their illicit activities. Approximately what is the population of China? 1,400 million. China has the largest population in the world, consistently exceeding 1.4 billion people. This significant demographic figure makes China a crucial subject in global studies related to population dynamics, resource management, and economic development. A substance that attracts water molecules from the environment through either absorption or adsorption is called what? Hygroscopic. A hygroscopic substance is one that readily attracts and holds water molecules from the surrounding environment through either absorption, taking water into its bulk, or adsorption, water adhering to its surface. This property is essential in various fields, including chemistry, materials science, and food preservation. In the Republican calendar, introduced after the French Revolution, how many days were there in a week? 10. The French Republican calendar, implemented during the French Revolution, aimed to Christianize and rationalize time. It featured a 10-day week, decade, instead of the traditional 7, with 3 decades making up a month, reflecting a radical shift in societal organization. What is the title of the head of government of Ireland, similar to that of a prime minister, who is nominated by the lower house and appointed by the president? The Taoiseach. The Taoiseach is the head of government of Ireland, a role equivalent to that of a prime minister in other parliamentary democracies. The Taoiseach is nominated by Dáil Éireann, the lower house of the Irish Parliament, and formally appointed by the President of Ireland, wielding significant executive authority. Banff National Park and Jasper National Park, which are connected by the Icefields Parkway, are in which Canadian province? Alberta. Banff National Park, established in 1885, is Canada's oldest national park, and Jasper National Park is the largest in the Canadian Rockies. Both are UNESCO World Heritage Sites located in Alberta, renowned for their stunning mountain landscapes and diverse wildlife. The Icefields Parkway connects these iconic parks. On the 25th of June 1991, Slovenia and Croatia became the first republics to declare independence from which country? Yugoslavia. The declarations of independence by Slovenia and Croatia on June 25, 1991, marked the beginning of the dissolution of Yugoslavia. This event triggered the Yugoslav Wars, a series of conflicts that reshaped the geopolitical landscape of the Balkans in the 1990s. What is the most abundant element in the Earth's crust? Silicon. Silicon is the second most abundant element in the Earth's crust by mass, after oxygen. It is rarely found in its pure form in nature, typically existing as silicon dioxide, silica, and silicates, which are fundamental components of rocks, sand, and soil. What is the name for an area of land, of which there are about 310 in the USA, managed by a Native American tribe under the U.S. Department of the Interior's Bureau of Indian Affairs? Indian Reservation. Indian reservations are sovereign territories designated for Native American tribes in the United States, managed under the authority of the U.S. Department of the Interior's Bureau of Indian Affairs. These lands were established through treaties, statutes, or executive orders to provide a land base for tribes, often retaining aspects of self-governance. What type of electricity is demonstrated when a balloon is rubbed on hair and then sticks to a wall? Static electricity. This phenomenon demonstrates static electricity, which is an imbalance of electric charges within or on the surface of a material. Rubbing the balloon against hair transfers electrons, creating an electrostatic charge that allows the balloon to stick to a wall. The New Model Army was formed to fight in which conflict? The English Civil War. The New Model Army was a highly disciplined and professional force created by Parliament during the English Civil War, 1642 to 1651. It played a crucial role in securing Parliament's victory over the Royalists, particularly under the leadership of Oliver Cromwell. Which modern country largely comprises the historical lands of Castile, prominent in Europe during the 13th century? Spain. Castile was one of the most powerful medieval kingdoms of the Iberian Peninsula, playing a central role in the Reconquista and the subsequent formation of Spain. Its union with Aragon in 1469, through the marriage of Isabella I of Castile and Ferdinand II of Aragon, laid the foundation for modern Spain. What is the term for a repository or site where human skeletal remains are stored, often utilized in areas with limited burial space? Ossuary. An ossuary is a chest, building, or well used to store the skeletal remains of deceased persons. This practice is common in regions where land is scarce or costly for traditional burials, allowing for the reuse of burial plots after the decomposition of soft tissues. The islands of Amherst, Bayfield, Green, Simcoe, High Bluff, Nicholson, Wuppos, and Wolf are located in which major body of water? Lake Ontario. These islands are significant geographical features within Lake Ontario, one of the 5 Great Lakes of North America. Wolf Island, in particular, is the largest island in Lake Ontario and lies at its eastern end, forming part of the Canadian province of Ontario. The Rocky Mountains extend for over 3,000 miles from New Mexico to which Canadian province? British Columbia. The Rocky Mountains are a major mountain range in western North America, stretching from the northernmost part of British Columbia in Canada to New Mexico in the United States. This extensive mountain system is known for its dramatic peaks, diverse ecosystems, and significant mineral resources. What specific type of convex three-dimensional body, conjectured by Russian mathematician Vladimir Arnold in 1995, was proven to exist in 2006 by Hungarian scientists Gabor Domokos and Peter Varkony? Gomombok. The Gomombok is a unique convex homogeneous body that has only one stable and one unstable equilibrium point when resting on a flat surface. Its existence was mathematically conjectured and later physically proven, challenging traditional understanding of monostatic shapes and having implications in fields like robotics and space exploration. What major act of domestic terrorism, carried out by Timothy McVeigh on April 19, 1995, targeted the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building? The Oklahoma City bombing. The Oklahoma City bombing was a devastating domestic terrorist attack on the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, on April 19, 1995. Carried out by Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, it resulted in 168 deaths and hundreds of injuries, becoming one of the deadliest acts of terrorism on U.S. soil before 9/11. What term describes the period, occurring approximately every 11 years, during which the sun's magnetic field lines are most distorted and solar activity is at its peak? Solar maximum. The solar maximum is a regular period of peak solar activity in the 11-year solar cycle. During this phase, the sun exhibits an increased number of sunspots, solar flares, and coronal mass ejections, which can affect Earth's technological systems and aurora displays. Which musical term denotes a repetitive oscillation about a single pitch that occurs in rapid cycles? Vibrato. Vibrato is a musical effect consisting of a regular, pulsating change of pitch, used to add expression and warmth to vocal and instrumental music. It is produced by varying the pitch slightly and rapidly above and below the central note. Women's judo and what other sport debuted in the Olympic Games program in 1992? Badminton. Badminton debuted as a full medal sport at the 1992 Barcelona Olympic Games, alongside women's judo. This marked a significant expansion of the Olympic program, reflecting the growing international popularity of both sports. Herpetophobia is a fear of what? Snakes. Herpetophobia is the specific phobia characterized by an intense and irrational fear of reptiles and amphibians, such as snakes and lizards. It is an anxiety disorder that can significantly impact an individual's daily life. Beginning in the late 15th century, expeditions mainly from Britain and which other country explored, and later settled, along the Atlantic coast of Canada? France. In the late 15th and early 16th centuries, both Britain and France were major powers in the exploration and colonization of North America. French explorers like Jacques Cartier played a pivotal role in charting the Gulf of St. Lawrence and claiming lands for France, particularly along what is now the Atlantic coast of Canada. What is the northernmost point in all U.S. territory? Point Barrow, Alaska. Point Barrow, now officially known as Utqiagvik, Alaska, is the northernmost point of all U.S. territory. This significant geographic landmark is located on the Arctic coast and marks the division between the Chukchi and Beaufort Seas. Which wonder of the ancient world was at Babylon? Hanging Gardens. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, famously associated with the city of Babylon. Although their existence and exact location are debated by historians, they are traditionally believed to have been built by King Nebuchadnezzar II. Julie Burchell, Peter Arnott, P.J. O'Rourke and John Pilger are associated with which activity? Journalism. Julie Burchell, Peter Arnott, P.J. O'Rourke, and John Pilger are all highly distinguished figures in the field of journalism. They are known for their distinct reporting styles, commentary, and contributions to various media outlets, often covering significant political and social issues. Whose works include Nude Descending a Staircase, No. 2, 1912, and a parody of the Mona Lisa, 1919, which shows a mustache and goatee attached to a cheap reproduction of the painting? Marcel Duchamp. Marcel Duchamp was a seminal French-American artist who profoundly influenced 20th-century art movements like Dada and conceptual art. His Nude Descending a Staircase, No. 2, 1912, is a masterpiece of Cubism and Futurism, while his LHOOQ, 1919, a modified Mona Lisa, is a famous ready-made that challenged traditional art concepts. Quakers are also known by what name? Society of Friends. The Quakers are a historically Christian religious movement officially known as the Religious Society of Friends. Originating in England in the 17th century, they are known for their pacifism, social justice advocacy, and belief in the inner light or direct experience of God. Karol Joseph Wojtyla reached the high point of his career on the 16th of October 1978 as what? Pope. Karol Joseph Wojtyla was elected Pope on October 16, 1978, becoming Pope John Paul II. He was the first non-Italian Pope in over 450 years and played a pivotal role on the world stage, especially concerning the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. Which festival in honor of a Roman god was forbidden in Rome in 186 BC? Bacchanalia. Bacchanalia was an ancient Roman festival dedicated to Bacchus, the god of wine and revelry. Initially a private affair, its increasingly wild nocturnal rituals led the Roman Senate to suppress it in 186 BC through the Senatus Consultum de Bacchanalis * due to concerns about public order and morality. How many US states lie north of the Tropic of Cancer? 49. The Tropic of Cancer is a significant line of latitude, approximately 23.5 degrees north. All US states except Hawaii lie completely north of this tropic, making 49 states situated entirely north of this geographical marker. What was the purpose of explorer Captain James Cook's first voyage to the South Pacific Ocean in 1768? To take a scientific team to observe the transit of Venus. Captain James Cook's first voyage, 1768 to 1771, aboard HMS Endeavour had the primary scientific objective of observing the transit of Venus from Tahiti. This astronomical event was crucial for calculating the precise distance from Earth to the Sun, a vital measurement for navigation. The Sphinx is located in which country? Egypt. The Great Sphinx of Giza, a monumental limestone statue depicting a mythical creature with the body of a lion and the head of a human, is situated on the Giza Plateau in Egypt. It is one of the world's oldest and largest statues, dating back to the Old Kingdom, circa 2550-2500 BC. Where were the first Commonwealth Games, then known as the Empire Games, held in 1930? Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The inaugural British Empire Games, later renamed the Commonwealth Games, took place in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, in 1930. These games were conceived to foster goodwill and understanding among the countries of the British Empire. What native language would Jesus Christ have spoken? Aramaic. Historical and linguistic scholars generally agree that Jesus Christ and his disciples primarily spoke Aramaic. This Semitic language was the lingua franca of Judea during the 1st century AD, widely used for daily communication. Louis Goldenberg and Alva J. Fisher have been credited with the invention of what device? Electric washing machine. While the exact sole inventor is often debated, Alva J. Fisher is widely credited with inventing the first electric washing machine in 1908. This invention significantly mechanized household chores, transforming domestic life. On what continent is the Gambia located? Africa. The Gambia is the smallest country within mainland Africa, situated on the continent's west coast. It is almost entirely surrounded by Senegal, with a narrow Atlantic coastline. What is the largest city in the province of Saskatchewan, Canada? Saskatoon. Saskatoon is the largest city in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan, situated along the South Saskatchewan River. It is a vital economic and cultural hub, known for its strong agricultural and technological sectors. What is the holy book of Shintoism? Kojiki. The Kojiki is a compilation of myths, legends, hymns, genealogies, and semi-historical accounts that chronicles the origin of the Japanese archipelago, its deities, kami, and the imperial line. It serves as a foundational text for Shinto beliefs and practices, along with the Nihon Shoki. What proportion of the 206 bones in the human body is contained in the hands and feet? A quarter. The human skeleton typically consists of 206 bones in adults. A significant proportion, approximately a quarter of these bones, 54 in the hands and 52 in the feet, are located in the hands and feet combined. This concentration allows for fine motor skills and complex movements. What scientific discipline is central to Proof, a play by David Auburn? Mathematics. David Auburn's Pulitzer Prize-winning play, Proof, centers around a young woman, Catherine, and her struggle with mental illness and her father's legacy as a brilliant but unstable mathematician. The play prominently features mathematical concepts and the challenges of genius. Which two world leaders reportedly shared fish and chips in a London pub in 2003? Tony Blair and George W. Bush. This informal meeting occurred during George W. Bush's state visit to the United Kingdom in November 2003. The gesture was widely seen as an attempt to project solidarity and a casual rapport between the two leaders amidst significant public protests against the Iraq War. From 1960 to 1979, where was the world's largest stained glass installation located? American Airlines Terminal 8, John F. Kennedy International Airport, New York City. The massive stained glass artwork, titled Flight, was created by Robert Soares for American Airlines Terminal 8. Measuring 300 feet long and 22 feet high, it was a prominent architectural feature until its demolition in 2007 to make way for a new terminal. What part of the USA is now known as the area that was referred to as Cimarron Territory until 1890? The Oklahoma Panhandle. Cimarron Territory was an unofficial, unorganized territory of the United States that existed from 1886 to 1890. It was formed by settlers who claimed land in the No Man's Land area, which later became the Oklahoma Panhandle when Oklahoma was organized. Which nation is the largest producer of coffee beans globally? Brazil. Brazil has historically been the world's largest producer of coffee, a position it has held for over 150 years. Its vast land area, favorable climate, and advanced agricultural techniques contribute significantly to its high output of both Arabica and Robusta beans. Which part of the human body is primarily affected by dermatitis? Skin. Dermatitis is a general term describing skin inflammation. It is a common condition that has many causes and forms, presenting with symptoms such as itchy, dry skin or a rash, swollen skin, and sometimes blisters. What was the Watergate building that was the subject of a U.S. political scandal that began in 1972? Office building. The Watergate scandal, originating from a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in the Watergate complex in June 1972, led to President Richard Nixon's resignation. The complex was a mixed-use development, and the DNC officers were located in its office building. According to the Islamic calendar, during which month were the first verses of the Quran revealed to the Islamic prophet Muhammad? Ramadan. According to Islamic tradition, the first verses of the Quran were revealed to Prophet Muhammad by the angel Gabriel on Laylat al-Qadr, the night of power, in the month of Ramadan. This event is a foundational moment in Islamic history and is commemorated annually. What is the official language of New Caledonia? French. New Caledonia is a special collectivity of France located in the southwest Pacific Ocean. As a French territory, its official language is French, reflecting its colonial history and ongoing administrative ties with France. These are the last lines of which play. A girl has just died, on her way to the infirmary, after swallowing some disinfectant. And a police inspector is on his way here, to ask some questions. An inspector calls, by J.B. Priestley. The quoted lines are the dramatic conclusion of J.B. Priestley's 1945 play, An Inspector Calls. The play is a social commentary and morality piece, exploring themes of responsibility, class, and consequences within a single night's events in an Edwardian English family. What is the technique of mechanically widening a narrowed or obstructed blood vessel whereby tightly folded balloons are passed into the narrowed locations and then inflated to a fixed size using water pressures some 75 to 500 times normal blood pressure, 6 to 20 atmospheres? Angioplasty. Angioplasty is a medical procedure used to unblock or widen arteries or veins, often performed to treat atherosclerotic narrowing. A balloon catheter is inserted and inflated at the site of obstruction, compressing the plaque and restoring blood flow. This technique has revolutionized the treatment of cardiovascular diseases. What does an anthropologist study? Human beings. Anthropology is the scientific study of humanity, encompassing human behavior, biology, cultures, societies, and linguistics in both the present and past. It provides a holistic understanding of what makes humans human, covering aspects from archaeological findings to contemporary cultural practices. What is the national anthem of the UK? God Save the Queen. God Save the Queen is the national anthem of the United Kingdom and a number of Commonwealth realms. The lyrics change to God Save the King when a male monarch is on the throne. Its origins date back to the 18th century, and it serves as a symbol of national identity and allegiance to the monarchy. What is meant by magnum opus? An artist's greatest work. Magnum opus is a Latin term that literally translates to great work. In a cultural and academic context, it refers to the greatest or most important artistic, literary, or musical work of an artist, writer, or composer, often considered their defining masterpiece. Felipe Calderón became president of which country on the 1st of December 2006? Mexico. Felipe Calderón Hinojosa served as the president of Mexico from 2006 to 2012. His presidency was marked by a significant escalation of the country's drug war and efforts to reform the energy sector. Which plant is commonly used as a herbal treatment for depression? St. John's wort. St. John's wort, Hypericum perforatum, is a medicinal herb often used for treating mild to moderate depression. Its active compounds, such as hypericin and hyperforin, are believed to influence neurotransmitters in the brain. Alberto Vargas specialized in painting what subjects? Pin-up girls. Alberto Vargas was a Peruvian-American painter renowned for his iconic pin-up girl art. His glamorous and stylized illustrations, frequently featured in magazines like Esquire and Playboy, significantly influenced American popular culture in the mid-20th century. Where was the astronomer Copernicus born? Poland. Nicolaus Copernicus was a Renaissance-era astronomer and mathematician who formulated a model of the universe with the Sun, rather than Earth, at its center. He was born in Toruń, Royal Prussia, a region then under the crown of the Kingdom of Poland. What name is given to the 4-mile, 6.4 kilometers, stretch of Las Vegas Boulevard which is mainly in the unincorporated communities of Paradise and Winchester? The Strip. The Las Vegas Strip is a world-renowned stretch of Las Vegas Boulevard in Nevada, famous for its concentration of resort hotels, casinos, and entertainment venues. It is a major global tourist destination and a significant economic hub. In what decade was the Korean War? 1950s. The Korean War was fought from 1950 to 1953, primarily between North Korea, supported by China and the Soviet Union, and South Korea, supported by the United Nations, led by the United States. It resulted in a stalemate and a divided peninsula at the 38th parallel. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is mainly set in what city? Verona. William Shakespeare's tragic play, Romeo and Juliet, is primarily set in the city of Verona, Italy. This iconic setting provides the backdrop for the feuding Montagues and Capulets, and the ill-fated love story between the two protagonists. The John F. Kennedy International Airport is located in what American city? New York. John F. Kennedy International Airport, JFK, is a major international airport serving New York City, United States. It is one of the busiest airports in the world and a key gateway for international air travel to the US. Which infectious disease, usually occurring in childhood, is characterized by eruptions of successive crops of vesicles? Chickenpox. Chickenpox, varicella, is a highly contagious disease caused by the varicella zoster virus. It is characterized by an itchy, blister-like rash that typically appears on the face, scalp, and torso, then spreads to the rest of the body. The followers of John Wycliffe in the 14th and 15th century were known as what? Lollards. The Lollards were a political and religious movement in late 14th and 15th century England. They were followers of John Wycliffe, an Oxford theologian, who challenged the authority of the Roman Catholic Church and advocated for reforms. What fishing method, used to catch salmon, mackerel, and kingfish, involves drawing one or more fishing lines, baited with lures or bait fish, through the water? Trolling. Trolling is a fishing method where one or more fishing lines, baited with lures or bait fish, are drawn through the water behind a moving boat. This technique is effective for catching large pelagic fish like salmon, mackerel, and kingfish. What causes the deposit of rocks and other matter called moraine on the Earth's surface? Glaciers. Moraines are accumulations of glacial debris, soil and rock, that have been transported and deposited by a glacier. They are formed as glaciers move, erode rock, and carry sediment, leaving distinct topographical features. What financial scandal, investigated by the U.S. Justice Department in 1994, implicated Bill and Hillary Clinton, along with Jim and Susan McDougal? Whitewater. The Whitewater controversy was an American political scandal involving Bill and Hillary Clinton's investments in the Whitewater Development Corporation. It led to investigations by the U.S. Justice Department starting in 1994, raising questions about financial impropriety and abuse of power. What is the name of the small red oval mark painted on the face, commonly seen in Hinduism? Bindi. The bindi is a traditional decorative mark worn by women on the forehead in Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism. It typically signifies marital status or is worn as a mark of beauty, and is often associated with the Ajna chakra, or third eye. Which U.S. president's first lady was known as Lady Bird? Lyndon B. Johnson. Claudia Alter, Lady Bird, Johnson was the First Lady of the United States from 1963 to 1969, as the wife of President Lyndon B. Johnson. She was a prominent environmentalist, advocating for the beautification of highways and public spaces across America. Who was the youngest person to be elected President of the USA? John Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was the youngest person ever elected President of the United States at 43 years old. He served as the 35th U.S. President from 1961 until his assassination in 1963, representing a new generation of American leadership. Archimedes' name is still used today to describe what type of mechanical device? Screw. The Archimedes screw is an ancient machine used for transferring water from a lower to a higher level. Attributed to the Greek mathematician Archimedes, it is still employed in various forms, notably in irrigation and in some industrial applications for conveying granular materials. What is the oldest commissioned warship in the world, built in 1765 and still manned by the British Royal Navy? Victory. HMS Victory is a first-rate ship of the line of the Royal Navy, most famous as Lord Nelson's flagship at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. It is the world's oldest commissioned warship still in service, preserved as a museum ship in Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. What is a statement or group of statements that leads to a contradiction or a situation which defies intuition? Paradox. A paradox is a statement or proposition that, despite sound, or apparently sound, reasoning from acceptable premises, leads to a conclusion that seems logically unacceptable or self-contradictory. Paradoxes often stimulate critical thinking and have played a significant role in philosophy, logic, and mathematics. For which site have there been several proposals to create a channel to the Mediterranean Sea or the Nile so that water can flow into a series of hydroelectric penstocks, which would release the water 90 meters below sea level where it would evaporate? The Qattara Depression. The Qattara Depression is a vast endorheic basin in northwestern Egypt, known for being the second lowest point in Africa. Proposals to flood it with Mediterranean sea water to generate hydropower and create a new inland sea have been discussed for decades, though significant ecological and engineering challenges remain. Mercury and Venus are known as the two what? Inferior planets. Mercury and Venus are termed inferior planets because their orbits lie inside Earth's orbit around the Sun. This means they are always observed relatively close to the Sun in our sky and exhibit phases similar to the Moon when viewed from Earth. Who led the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott, co-founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in 1957, led the 1963 March on Washington, and in 1964 became the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize for his work to end segregation and racial discrimination through civil disobedience and other nonviolent means? Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a pivotal leader in the American civil rights movement. His advocacy for nonviolent protest, exemplified by the Montgomery bus boycott and the March on Washington, was instrumental in ending legal segregation and achieving voting rights for African Americans, for which he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. What is another name for athlete's foot? Tinea pedis. Athlete's foot, medically known as tinea pedis, is a common fungal infection of the feet. It is caused by dermatophytes, a type of fungi that thrive in warm, moist environments, often leading to scaling, itching, and redness. Who was the first British monarch to visit the United States of America? King George VI. King George VI was the first reigning British monarch to visit the United States. He and Queen Elizabeth made a landmark state visit in 1939, strengthening Anglo-American relations on the eve of World War II. Which country in South America has the largest area and population? Brazil. Brazil is the largest country in South America by both land area and population. It covers a vast territory and is home to over 215 million people, making it a dominant economic and cultural force in the region. Bags, Barino, Casarecchio di Goreto, Creamer, Double Gloucester, Geode, Lancashire, Pierino, Sakura, and Tabor are all types of what food product? Cheese. These are all distinct varieties of cheese, originating from different regions globally. Cheese production involves diverse methods and ingredients, leading to a wide array of textures, flavors, and forms. In 1971, on which island did the USA conduct its largest underground nuclear weapons test? Amchitka. The USA conducted its largest underground nuclear weapons test, codenamed Kanakun, on Amchitka Island in Alaska in 1971. This test detonated a 5-megaton device, causing significant geological disturbances and raising environmental concerns. What transparent, biconvex structure within the eye changes shape to adjust its focal distance, enabling clear vision of objects at varying distances? Lens. The lens is a transparent, biconvex structure located behind the iris in the eye. Its unique ability to change shape, a process called accommodation, is crucial for focusing light onto the retina and achieving clear vision at different distances. Umberto II was the last king of which country? Italy. Umberto II was the last king of Italy, reigning for just over a month in 1946 before the monarchy was abolished and Italy became a republic. His short reign is often referred to as the May King period. What city has more than 100 kilometers of canals, the main ones called Herrengracht, Prinsengracht, and Kaisersgracht, which were dug in the 17th century to form concentric belts around the city, known as the Grachtengordel? Amsterdam. Amsterdam is renowned for its extensive canal system, the Grachtengordel, which was developed in the 17th century during the Dutch Golden Age. These canals served both defensive and economic purposes, facilitating trade and transport, and are now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In 1692, Sarah Good, Elizabeth Howe, Susanna Martin, Sarah Wilds, Rebecca Nurse, Martha Carrier, George Jacob Sr., George Burroughs, John Willard, John Proctor and others were executed in connection with what? Witchcraft. The individuals listed were among those executed during the infamous Salem witch trials of 1692 to 1693 in colonial Massachusetts. This period of mass hysteria led to accusations of witchcraft and resulted in the trials and executions of many innocent people. Which river flows through or forms the border of Germany, Austria, Slovakia, Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, Moldova and Ukraine? Danube. The Danube is the second longest river in Europe, flowing over 2,800 kilometers from Germany's Black Forest to the Black Sea. It is a vital waterway for Central and Southeastern Europe, passing through or bordering 10 countries. The olfactory organs are concerned with the sense of what? Smell. The olfactory organs, primarily the olfactory epithelium located in the nasal cavity, are responsible for the sense of smell, olfaction. They contain specialized receptor cells that detect odor molecules, transmitting signals to the brain for interpretation. The character of John Bull is a national personification of which group of people in general? Citizens of Great Britain. John Bull is a national personification of Great Britain, often depicted as a stout, middle-aged, country-dwelling Englishman. This figure represents the traditional values and characteristics of the British people, similar to how Uncle Sam personifies the United States. What is the name for a net of fine lines or fibers in the eyepiece of a sighting device, such as a telescope, a telescopic sight, a microscope, or the screen of an oscilloscope? Reticle. A reticle is a grid or pattern of fine lines or fibers strategically placed in the eyepiece of an optical instrument. It serves as a crucial reference point for aiming, measurement, or alignment in devices like telescopes, microscopes, and surveying equipment, enhancing precision and accuracy. What is the standard measure of quantity used in the oil production industry? Barrel. The barrel is the standard unit of volume for crude oil and other petroleum products in the industry, typically equivalent to 42 US gallons or approximately 159 liters. This measurement is fundamental for global pricing, trading, and inventory management within the oil sector. What is the popular name for Beethoven's piano sonata in C-sharp minor? Moonlight Sonata. Ludwig van Beethoven's Piano Sonata No. 14 in C-sharp minor, Opus 27, No. 2, is famously known as the Moonlight Sonata. This evocative nickname was coined by poet Ludwig Rellstab a few years after Beethoven's death, likening the first movement to moonlight shimmering on Lake Lucerne, and it has since become one of the most recognizable classical compositions. How did Lord Darnley, the father of James I of Great Britain, die on the 10th of February 1567? He was blown up and killed. Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, the second husband of Mary, Queen of Scots, and father of James VI of Scotland, later James I of Great Britain, died on February 10, 1567, after his lodging at Kirkhope in Edinburgh was destroyed by an explosion. His death remains a historically significant and controversial event, with suspicion falling on several parties including Mary herself and the Earl of Bothwell. What was the name of the comprehensive survey of land and resources in Britain ordered by William I in 1085? The Domesday Book. The Domesday Book was a comprehensive survey of land and resources in England and parts of Wales, commissioned by William I, William the Conqueror, in 1085. It served as a detailed record for taxation and administrative purposes, providing invaluable insights into medieval English society, economy, and demography. Which alpine plant is characterized by white, woolly leaves and star-shaped flower heads, typically blooming between July and September? Edelweiss. Edelweiss, Leontopodium alpinum, is a well-known mountain flower, native to the Alps and other European mountain ranges. Its distinctive white, woolly appearance is an adaptation to protect it from harsh high-altitude conditions, and it is a protected species in many countries due to its rarity and cultural significance. What was the first name of the renowned French Impressionist painter Monet? Claude. Claude Monet was a pivotal figure in the Impressionist movement, a 19th-century art movement known for its distinctive brush strokes and focus on capturing light and immediate impressions. His famous works include the Water Lilies series, which profoundly influenced modern art. In which ocean are the island nations and territories of Fiji, Tonga, Hawaii, and New Caledonia located? Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is the largest and deepest of Earth's 5 oceanic divisions, covering about a third of its surface. It encompasses numerous island groups, including those of Oceania, like Fiji and Tonga, and the Hawaiian archipelago, known for their unique biodiversity and geological formations. What, in ancient Rome, was a sudatorium? Sauna. A sudatorium was a hot, sweat-inducing room found in ancient Roman baths. It served as a key component of the Roman bathing ritual, designed to promote detoxification and relaxation through intense heat. Ladro porcelain comes from what country? Spain. Ladro is a Spanish company based in Taverns Blancs, Valencia, known for its high-quality porcelain figurines and decorative art pieces. Founded in 1953, it is a prominent example of modern Spanish craftsmanship. Which US city has the same name as the state that it is in? New York. New York City is located in the state of New York, making it one of the few instances in the United States where a major city shares its name with its encompassing state. This often leads to clarification, distinguishing between New York City and New York State. The wedding of Prince William of Wales and Kate Middleton is the 10th royal wedding to be held at Westminster Abbey. The first was that of Princess Patricia of Connaught to the Honourable Alexander Ramsay, which was in what year? 1919. The wedding of Princess Patricia of Connaught and Alexander Ramsay in 1919 marked the first royal wedding to be held at Westminster Abbey. This landmark venue has since become synonymous with significant British royal ceremonies, including the weddings of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince William. What is the word for the point on the Earth's surface that is directly above the point where an earthquake or underground explosion originates? Epicenter. The epicenter is the point on the Earth's surface located directly above the hypocenter or focus, which is where an earthquake or underground explosion originates. It is typically the area where the greatest damage from an earthquake occurs. Who became president of Iraq in May 2005? Jalal Talabani. Jalal Talabani became the first elected president of Iraq in May 2005, following the overthrow of Saddam Hussein's regime. He was a prominent Kurdish politician who played a crucial role in post-Saddam Iraq's political transition. On which day of the week are general elections usually held in the UK? Thursdays. General elections in the United Kingdom are traditionally held on Thursdays. This practice dates back to the 1930s, thought to minimize travel disruption and coincide with market days in rural areas. What is the term for an irrational fear of death? Thanatophobia. Thanatophobia is an anxiety disorder characterized by an excessive, irrational fear of death or the dying process. It is derived from the Greek word, thanatos, meaning death, and phobos, meaning fear. To which island was Napoleon exiled after his defeat at the Battle of Waterloo? St. Helena. Following his decisive defeat at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, Napoleon Bonaparte was exiled by the British to the remote South Atlantic island of St. Helena. He remained there under guard until his death in 1821. In which country is the city of Wells located? England. The city of Wells is a cathedral city and civil parish in the Mendip district of Somerset, England. It is notable for Wells Cathedral, which is a major example of early English Gothic architecture. In Britain, which institution has used the portcullis as its emblem on stationery since 1967? House of Commons. The portcullis is a well-known heraldic badge associated with the British Houses of Parliament. Since 1967, it has been used as an emblem on the stationery and official documents of the House of Commons. Which English novelist, released from prison in 1703 through the intervention of Robert Halley, 1st Earl of Oxford, was subsequently employed as a spy? Daniel Defoe. Daniel Defoe, famous for Robinson Crusoe, was imprisoned in 1703 for seditious libel. He was released after Robert Halley, a prominent Tory statesman, intervened and subsequently employed Defoe as a political agent and propagandist. What is added to steel to make stainless steel? Chromium. Stainless steel is an alloy of steel with a minimum of 10.5% chromium content. The addition of chromium forms a passive layer of chromium oxide on the surface, which protects the steel from rust and corrosion, making it stainless. According to the Bible, who visited Solomon? The Queen of Sheba. The Queen of Sheba is mentioned in the Bible, 1 Kings 10 and 2 Chronicles chapter 9, as a monarch who visited King Solomon in Jerusalem, drawn by reports of his great wisdom and wealth. Her visit is a significant narrative in Abrahamic religions, symbolizing an exchange of wisdom and resources between ancient kingdoms. Ratatouille is native to which country? France. Ratatouille is a traditional French Provençal stewed vegetable dish. It originated in Nice and is typically made with tomatoes, garlic, onions, zucchini, eggplant, bell peppers, and herbs, served as a side dish or a main course. Offanon, Piscivarum, Ablumen, Latissimun and Triflin, Cysteine-rich secretory proteins that can reduce muscle contractions are naturally found where? Snake venom. These proteins, including ophanon, piscivarum, and others, belong to the family of cysteine-rich secretory proteins, crisps. Crisps are common components of snake venom, where they play various roles, including affecting muscle contraction, ion channel modulation, and inhibiting nerve function, contributing to the venom's toxicity. What is the name of about 1,100 acres, 445 hectares, of peat bog near Greater Manchester, England that was reclaimed in the latter half of the 19th century for farming and the disposal of city waste? Carrington Moss. Carrington Moss is a large peat bog located near Greater Manchester, England. In the latter half of the 19th century, this area was extensively reclaimed for agricultural purposes and also served as a site for disposing of city waste. This transformation highlights historical land management practices and their impact on natural ecosystems. Who were the first recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize? Jean-Henri Dunant and Frédéric Passy. The first Nobel Peace Prize was awarded in 1901 jointly to Jean-Henri Dunant, the founder of the Red Cross, and Frédéric Passy, a prominent French economist and pacifist. Dunant was recognized for his role in founding the International Committee of the Red Cross and initiating the Geneva Convention, while Passy was honored for his lifelong efforts in advocating for international peace congresses. In Michelangelo's painting on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, whose hand extends to the hand of Adam? God. In Michelangelo's iconic fresco, The Creation of Adam, a central panel on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, the hand of God is depicted reaching out to give life to Adam. This powerful image is a universally recognized symbol of divine creation and the spark of human life, showcasing a profound moment from the book of Genesis. The Beaufort Sea constitutes part of which ocean? Arctic Ocean. The Beaufort Sea is a marginal sea of the Arctic Ocean, located north of Canada's Northwest Territories, Yukon, and Alaska, and west of Canada's Arctic archipelago. It plays a significant role in Arctic climate and marine ecosystems, particularly in terms of sea ice dynamics and petroleum exploration. In the UK, the Parliament Acts of 1911 and 1949, along with other foundational documents, are considered basic elements of the uncodified British Constitution. Which of the following is not one of these fundamental constitutional documents? The Corn Laws, the Importation Act, 1815. The British Constitution is uncodified, relying on a combination of statutes, common law, and constitutional conventions. Key foundational statutes include the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, 1689, the Act of Settlement, 1701, and the Parliament Acts, 1911 and 1949. The Corn Laws were economic statutes enacted to protect landowners by imposing tariffs on imported grain, and while historically significant, they are not considered fundamental constitutional documents. A monitor is a type of what animal? Lizard. Monitor lizards belong to the genus Varanus, a group of large, predatory lizards native to Africa, Asia, and Oceania. They are known for their strong limbs, powerful tails, and often large size, with species such as the Komodo dragon being the largest living lizard. Chapatis are a part of the cuisine of which country? India. Chapatis, often spelled roti in some contexts, are a fundamental unleavened flatbread in Indian cuisine, made from whole wheat flour and water. They are a staple food across India and surrounding regions, typically served with a variety of curries, vegetables, and lentils. What nickname was given to Mary Mallon, who infected a known 53 people working as a cook in New York and, in 1907, was the first healthy typhoid carrier to be identified? Typhoid Mary. Mary Mallon, known as Typhoid Mary, was an Irish immigrant cook identified as the first asymptomatic carrier of typhoid fever in the United States in the early 20th century. Despite being healthy herself, she unknowingly infected dozens of people through her work, leading to her forced isolation by public health authorities. Which amendment to the U.S. Constitution provides freedom of religion, assembly, speech, and the press? First. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution is a cornerstone of American civil liberties, guaranteeing freedoms of speech, the press, religion, assembly, and the right to petition the government. Ratified in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, it protects fundamental individual rights against government infringement. The home of the drink called bourbon is Bourbon County. In which U.S. state is it located? Kentucky. Bourbon whiskey is a type of American whiskey that is a barrel-aged distilled spirit made primarily from corn. While it can be produced anywhere in the United States, it is strongly associated with Kentucky, where Bourbon County is located, and most of the world's bourbon is produced. What is the term for money or assets acquired through illegal activities? Ill-gotten gains. Ill-gotten gains refers to money, property, or other assets acquired through illegal or unethical means, such as fraud, theft, corruption, or other criminal enterprises. This term emphasizes the illicit origin of the wealth, often implying that it rightfully belongs to another party or the state. Franz Ferdinand, whose assassination triggered World War I, was a member of which family? Habsburg. Archduke Franz Ferdinand was an heir presumptive to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his assassination in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, by Gavrilo Princip is widely regarded as the immediate trigger for World War I. He belonged to the House of Habsburg-Lorraine, a prominent European dynasty that ruled the Austro-Hungarian Empire for centuries. Hawaii is in which ocean? Pacific. Hawaii is an archipelago of volcanic islands located in the central Pacific Ocean. As the 50th U.S. state, it is renowned for its unique natural beauty, active volcanoes, diverse ecosystems, and rich Polynesian culture. Which Irish playwright was awarded the Croix de Guerre and the Médaille de la Résistance by the French government for his efforts in fighting the German occupation as part of the French resistance during World War II? Samuel Beckett. Samuel Beckett, the renowned Irish playwright and Nobel laureate, actively participated in the French resistance during World War II. He served as a courier and later joined a resistance group, for which he was awarded the Croix de Guerre and the Médaille de la Résistance by the French government. An original copy of which book was sold at auction at Sotheby's in London in December 2010 for $7.3 million, setting a record price for the sale of a book? Birds of America, by John James Audubon. John James Audubon's Birds of America is a monumental ornithological work, renowned for its life-sized illustrations of American birds. An original copy fetched a record-breaking price at auction in 2010 due to its rarity, artistic merit, and historical significance in natural history. According to Greek mythology, hope was the only thing left in what container after it had been opened? Pandora's box. Pandora's box is a key myth from Greek antiquity, associated with the origin of evil in the world and the enduring presence of hope. It illustrates ancient Greek views on human nature and divine punishment. Parsifal was the last opera by which composer? Wagner. Richard Wagner was a highly influential German composer, conductor, and theatre director, primarily known for his operas. Parsifal, his final opera, is a sacred festival drama based on Arthurian legends. A marlin is a type of what? Fish. A marlin is a large, predatory ray-finned fish characterized by its elongated, spear-like snout or bill and a long, rigid dorsal fin. They are found in tropical and subtropical waters worldwide. The Hudson River forms the boundary between the states of New York and what other? New Jersey. The Hudson River flows primarily through eastern New York State, forming a significant portion of the border between New York and New Jersey. It is a crucial waterway for the region's geography and history. The English town of Hay-on-Wye is famous for a festival featuring what? Books. Hay-on-Wye, a renowned town in Wales, is famous for its extensive number of second-hand and antiquarian bookshops. It is also globally recognized for hosting the annual Hay Festival of Literature and Arts, a prestigious literary event. Where is the See of William Henry Smith? On the Moon. The See of William Henry Smith is formally known as Mare Smithy, one of the lunar maria on the Moon's surface. These vast, dark basaltic plains were mistakenly thought to be seas by early astronomers, and their names often honor significant figures in scientific exploration. In June 1944, the names Juno, Omaha, Sword, Utah and Gold were given to what? Beaches. Juno, Omaha, Sword, Utah, and Gold were the code names for the 5 landing zones on the beaches of Normandy, France, during D-Day, June 6, 1944. These landings marked the beginning of Operation Overlord, the Allied invasion of German-occupied Western Europe during World War II. Florence is the capital of what Italian region? Tuscany. Florence is the capital city of the Tuscany region in central Italy, located on the Arno River. Renowned for its history, art, architecture, and cultural influence, Florence was a center of medieval European trade and finance and the birthplace of the Renaissance. Poison arrow, or poison dart, is what type of creature? Frog. Poison dart frogs are a group of colorful frogs native to tropical Central and South America. Their skin secretes potent toxins, which indigenous tribes traditionally used to poison the tips of their blow darts. Who introduced the term horsepower in a scientific context? James Watt. James Watt, a Scottish inventor and mechanical engineer, introduced the term horsepower in the late 18th century. He used it to compare the output of steam engines with the power of draft horses, thereby standardizing a unit for power measurement. What is Old Delhi's military fort, built by Shah Jahan, known as? The Red Fort. The Red Fort, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was built by Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in the 17th century as the palace fort of his new capital, Shahjahanabad. Its distinctive red sandstone walls and Indo-Islamic architectural style make it a prominent historical landmark in Delhi. Annie Geddes, an Australian-born photographer and clothing designer, is known for her stylized depictions of what? Babies and motherhood. Annie Geddes is a renowned Australian photographer famous for her unique and often whimsical photographic portrayals of babies and maternity. Her distinct style involves dressing infants in elaborate costumes and settings, creating iconic imagery that celebrates early childhood. What is the world's largest carnivore species found on land, which is native to the north of the northern hemisphere? Polar bear. The polar bear, Ursus maritimus, is the largest land carnivore and is native to the Arctic Circle, specifically around the North Pole. Adapted for cold environments, it has a thick layer of body fat and a water-repellent coat, primarily preying on seals. The 1975 Australian constitutional crisis culminated on the 11th of November with the removal of which Australian Labor Party Prime Minister by Governor-General Sir John Kerr, and the appointment of the leader of the opposition, Malcolm Fraser, as caretaker Prime Minister? Gough Whitlam. The 1975 Australian constitutional crisis, known as the dismissal, involved Governor-General Sir John Kerr dismissing Prime Minister Gough Whitlam's Labour government. This unprecedented event, triggered by a deadlock over supply bills in Parliament, remains a pivotal moment in Australian political history regarding the powers of the Governor-General. The Eddystone Rocks are 14 miles from which part of the UK? Plymouth. The Eddystone Rocks are a group of rocks located about 14 miles southwest of Plymouth, England, in the English Channel. These notoriously hazardous rocks are famous for the series of lighthouses built upon them, with the current Eddystone Lighthouse being a crucial navigational aid. In the USA, what does Memorial Day commemorate? Americans who died in military service. Memorial Day is a federal holiday in the United States observed on the last Monday of May. It honors and mourns military personnel who died while serving in the United States Armed Forces. The holiday originated after the American Civil War to commemorate both Union and Confederate soldiers. The ArcelorMittal Orbit Observation Tower, standing at 115 meters, 377 feet, is a significant piece of public art in Britain. Where is it located? Olympic Park, Stratford, London. The ArcelorMittal Orbit is a 115-meter, 377 feet high sculpture and observation tower in the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in Stratford, London. It was designed by Anish Kapoor and Cecil Barmond for the 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games. It serves as a permanent reminder of the Games and offers panoramic views of London. Emmett Douglas, an African-American businessman and president of Louisiana's NAACP from 1966 to 1981, was arrested in 1970. What was the reason for his arrest? He attempted to eat at an all-white restaurant in Baton Rouge. Emmett Douglas was a prominent figure in the civil rights movement in Louisiana, leading the state's NAACP chapter during a critical period. His arrest in 1970 for attempting to desegregate an all-white restaurant in Baton Rouge highlights the ongoing struggle against racial segregation in the United States, even years after landmark civil rights legislation. Such actions were crucial in challenging discriminatory practices and advancing civil rights. Which river flows beneath the Ponte Vecchio, a notable medieval bridge renowned for still featuring shops built along its span? Arno. The Ponte Vecchio is a medieval stone arch bridge over the Arno River in Florence, Italy. It is unique for its shops built along the bridge, a common practice in medieval times, particularly for butchers, tanners, and goldsmiths. The bridge is one of Florence's most iconic landmarks and a testament to medieval engineering and urban planning. In which U.S. state did the historic siege of the Alamo occur? Texas. The siege of the Alamo was a pivotal event in the Texas Revolution, occurring in February and March 1836. A small group of Texan defenders held out for 13 days against a much larger Mexican army, led by General Santa Anna, before being overrun. Although a military defeat for the Texans, the bravery of its defenders, including Davy Crockett and Jim Bowie, inspired many to join the Texan army, leading to their eventual victory and independence. Who married Jacqueline Bouvier in 1953? John F. Kennedy. Jacqueline Bouvier married John F. Kennedy in 1953, several years before his presidential election. She became one of the most iconic first ladies in U.S. history, known for her grace, style, and contributions to the arts and preservation of the White House. Their marriage and public life were closely watched, making this a relevant historical fact. What do cygnets grow up to be? Swans. Cygnets are the term used for the young of swans. This terminology is part of general zoological classification, identifying the specific developmental stage of an animal, a common area of inquiry in general science sections of competitive exams. Why does the Archbishop of York sign himself, Ebor? Ebricum was the Roman name for York from 75 AD. The practice of the Archbishop of York using Ebor in his signature is a historical tradition stemming from the Roman era. Ebracum was the Roman name for the city of York, reflecting its ancient significance and the long-standing continuity of the ecclesiastical see. Which U.S. state consists of two separate peninsulas, separated by the Straits of Mackinac, a 5-mile, 8 kilometers, wide channel? Michigan. Michigan is unique among U.S. states for its distinctive geography, comprising two peninsulas, the Upper Peninsula and the Lower Peninsula. These landmasses are separated by the Straits of Mackinac, a crucial waterway that connects Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. What type of instrument was a Moog? Synthesizer. The Moog synthesizer, invented by Robert Moog, revolutionized electronic music in the 1960s. It is a pioneering electronic musical instrument that generates and modifies a wide range of sounds, becoming foundational in various music genres. What is the name used for the young of a kangaroo? Joey. A joey is the specific term used for the young of marsupials, including kangaroos, wallabies, and opossums. These young are typically born in a highly underdeveloped state and complete their early development nourished within their mother's pouch. What territory was sold by Russia under Tsar Alexander II in 1867, for approximately $1.90 per acre, totaling $7.2 million United States dollars? Alaska. The Alaska Purchase was a pivotal historical event where the United States acquired Alaska from the Russian Empire in 1867. Orchestrated by U.S. Secretary of State William Seward, this acquisition significantly expanded the territorial boundaries of the United States. From the landing of Pedro Alvarez Cabral in 1500 until its independence in 1822, Brazil was a colony of which nation? Portugal. Brazil was a Portuguese colony for over 3 centuries, following the arrival of Pedro Alvarez Cabral in 1500. This extensive colonial period profoundly influenced Brazil's language, culture, and institutions, culminating in its declaration of independence from Portugal in 1822. Which city hosted the 1972 Summer Olympics? Munich. Munich, then part of West Germany, hosted the 1972 Summer Olympics. This event is historically significant not only for its athletic competitions but also for the tragic Munich massacre, where 11 Israeli Olympic team members were taken hostage and killed by the Palestinian terrorist group Black September. Where is the only population of wild apes in Europe? Gibraltar. Gibraltar is home to the Barbary macaques, the only wild monkey population on the European continent. These apes are a significant symbol of Gibraltar and are believed to have originated from North Africa, though their exact arrival in Gibraltar is a subject of historical debate. Who was the fourth man in the Cambridge spy ring, whose name was not publicly known until 1979? Anthony Blunt. Anthony Blunt was a prominent British art historian and a key member of the infamous Cambridge 5 spy ring, which passed British intelligence to the Soviet Union during the Cold War. His identity as the fourth man was officially revealed in 1979, causing a national scandal. In World War I, what was the Third Battle of Ypres, fought from the 31st of July to the 6th of November 1917, also known as the Battle of Passchendaele? The Third Battle of Ypres, more commonly known as the Battle of Passchendaele, was a major campaign of World War I fought by the Allies against the German Empire. It is infamous for its horrific conditions, particularly the deep mud and massive casualties, with limited strategic gains for either side. Sitting Bull was chief of what group? Sioux. Sitting Bull was a Hinkpapa Lakota leader who led his people during years of resistance against United States government policies. He is revered for his staunch defense of Lakota lands and culture, notably leading the Lakota warriors to victory over General Custer's forces at the Battle of the Little Bighorn in 1876. What 1963 political scandal in the UK involved the Secretary of State for War, after he had a brief relationship with the mistress of a Russian spy, a showgirl named Christine Keeler, and lied to the House of Commons about it? The Profumo Affair. The Profumo Affair was a British political scandal that occurred in 1963, involving Secretary of State for War John Profumo and his affair with Christine Keeler. Profumo's initial denial to Parliament, followed by his admission, led to his resignation, severely damaging the Conservative government's reputation and raising national security concerns due to Keeler's other relationships. Where is the U.S. National Archives, which holds the original documents of the U.S. Constitution and the U.S. Declaration of Independence? Washington, D.C. The U.S. National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, is an independent agency of the United States government charged with preserving and documenting government and historical records. Its main facility in Washington, D.C., known as the National Archives Building, proudly houses the original Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. What word's original meaning was the hearing of a person's confession and their absolution before their execution. Shrift. Shrift refers to the act of confession, particularly in a religious context, and subsequent absolution. Historically, it was a significant ritual, especially for individuals facing execution, allowing them to seek spiritual redemption before their demise. Alsace, Aquitaine, Auvergne, Bourgogne, Bretagne, Limousin and Lorraine are all regions of which country? France. Alsace, Aquitaine, Auvergne, Bourgogne, Burgundy, Bretagne, Brittany, Limousin, and Lorraine are historical and administrative regions of France. These regions are known for their distinct cultural identities, historical significance, and economic contributions, such as wine production in Burgundy and historical importance in Lorraine. Andy Green, driving thrust SSC, did what in 1997? Broke the land speed record. In 1997, Andy Green, a British RAF pilot, broke the sound barrier and set a new land speed record in the thrust SSC. This achievement, reaching 763 miles per hour, 1,228 kilometers per hour, marked the first time a land vehicle officially exceeded the speed of sound and required advanced aerospace engineering. Where are the pleurae, bronchi and alveoli? Lungs. The pleurae, bronchi, and alveoli are key anatomical structures found within the lungs. The pleurae are membranes encasing the lungs, the bronchi are airways leading air into the lungs, and the alveoli are tiny air sacs where oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange occurs. Why is the ship the Mayflower famous? It carried settlers to North America in 1620. The Mayflower is historically famous for transporting a group of English Puritans, known today as the Pilgrims, to North America in 1620. This voyage led to the establishment of Plymouth Colony in Massachusetts, a pivotal event in early American history and the founding of the United States. What is a word for a deep narrow valley? Gorge. A gorge is a deep, narrow valley, often with steep rocky sides, typically formed by a river or stream eroding through bedrock. They are commonly found in mountainous or plateau regions and can be significant geological features. John Scopes was put on trial in 1925 in the USA for teaching the theories of which scientist? Darwin. John Scopes was famously put on trial in 1925 in Tennessee, USA, for teaching Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, which was prohibited by the state's Butler Act. Known as the Scopes monkey trial, this case highlighted the conflict between religious fundamentalism and scientific teaching in public education. Who was the subject of a 4-week inquiry by the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission in 1954 into his background, actions, and associations, due to suspicions that he was a member of the Communist Party and might have spied for the Soviet Union, which resulted in his top-secret security clearance being revoked? J. Robert Oppenheimer. J. Robert Oppenheimer, known as the father of the atomic bomb, was the subject of a highly controversial security hearing in 1954. Despite his crucial role in the Manhattan Project, his top-secret security clearance was revoked due to suspicions regarding his associations and perceived communist sympathies during the McCarthy era. What is the approximate average salinity of Gilbert Bay, the main basin of the Great Salt Lake in Utah, which is the largest salt lake in the Western Hemisphere? 13%. The Great Salt Lake in Utah, USA, is renowned as the largest salt lake in the Western Hemisphere. Its high salinity, particularly in Gilbert Bay averaging around 13%, is a consequence of its endorheic nature, where water inflows but exits primarily through evaporation, concentrating dissolved salts over time. What primarily determines the characteristic color of a flamingo's plumage? Diet. The distinctive pink or reddish-orange coloration of a flamingo's feathers is primarily influenced by its diet. Flamingos consume brine shrimp and algae rich in carotenoid pigments, which are then metabolized and deposited into their plumage. What notable nickname was given to German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck? The Iron Chancellor. Otto von Bismarck, a pivotal figure in European history, served as the first Chancellor of the unified German Empire from 1871 to 1890. He earned the moniker, the Iron Chancellor, due to his unwavering determination, pragmatic political strategies known as realpolitik, and his instrumental role in achieving German unification through military force and diplomacy. The flags of Australia and New Zealand feature representations of what? Southern Cross. The Southern Cross is a prominent constellation visible in the Southern Hemisphere, a significant celestial navigation aid and cultural symbol for these nations. It represents their geographical location and is a distinctive feature on their national flags. Approximately how far is the Moon from Earth? 240,000 miles. The average distance from the Earth to the Moon is approximately 384,400 kilometers, 238,855 miles. This distance varies slightly throughout the Moon's elliptical orbit, being closest at perigee and farthest at apogee. Which chapel in the Apostolic Palace, the official residence of the Pope in Vatican City, famous for its architecture and decoration, has been frescoed by the Renaissance artists including Michelangelo, Raphael, Bernini, and Sandro Botticelli? Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel, located in the Apostolic Palace, is a renowned chapel famous for its Renaissance frescoes. Michelangelo's ceiling frescoes and his The Last Judgment on the altar wall are iconic masterpieces, drawing millions of visitors annually. What was the name of the series of religiously sanctioned military campaigns between 1095 and 1291 waged by much of Latin Christian Europe to restore Christian control of the Holy Land? The Crusades. The Crusades were a series of religious wars initiated, supported, and sometimes directed by the Latin Church in the medieval period. Their primary goal was to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim rule, significantly impacting political and religious landscapes across Europe and the Middle East. According to a Time, Pew Research Center poll published on the 29th of November 2010, the percentage of married people in the USA has changed from 75% of those over 18 in 1960 to what in 2008? 50%. This data point highlights a significant demographic shift in the USA, where the percentage of married adults declined substantially over nearly 5 decades. Such trends are crucial for understanding societal changes, economic impacts, and policy development. British engineers Isambard Kingdom Brunel and Robert Stephenson built their most impressive structures and locomotives in which century? 19th. Isambard Kingdom. Brunel and Robert Stevenson were pivotal figures of the 19th century industrial revolution in Britain. They were instrumental in developing railways, bridges, and steamships, transforming transport and engineering infrastructure globally.